So this year, you've enjoyed Vincent Price partly inventing the slasher who commits to a theme genre as the fancifully flamboyant retro killer in the abominable Dr. Phibes movies, and watched him go the opposite direction as a brutally gnarly era contemporary serial slasher with a Shakespeare hang-up in Theater of Blood. How about something somewhere in the middle? Specifically, where the same producers behind the Phibes movies saw the actually very positive reviews for Theater of Blood and said, shit, we should do one like that.
I am not afraid. There is always room for more in the coffin of time.
So here's Madhouse, also sometimes re-released as The Revenge of Dr. Death and based on the novel Devil Day by Angus Hall, which once again finds Price playing a meta-joke riff on the subject of being Vincent Price, here a wealthy Hollywood horror star named Paul Toombs, famous for his recurring role as a villain named Dr. Death, who based on what we see is a killer surgeon who may or may not also possess supernatural powers and kills victims, usually beautiful women, using torture, traps, and surgical tools.
We must work fast before rigor mortis sets in. Hand me the scalpel.
We don't really get a clear extended look at any of the Dr. Death movies because part of the film's meta gimmick is that almost all the footage of Toombs' performances are repurposed from Price's actual earlier films owned by producer American International Pictures, specifically The Raven, Tales of Terror, Scream and Scream Again, The Pit and the Pendulum, Haunted Palace, and House of Usher, which is why the film also includes a guest appearance credit for both Basil Rathbone and Boris Karloff, despite both actors having died several years before the film was made.
Mind and body at peace entirely.
Remember this? You were brilliant.
Basil. I had some real help on that one.
To the story, on the night of a big New Year's Eve party where Toombs announces his engagement to his much younger fiancée Ellen just after a screening of the latest Dr. Death masterpiece, a sleazy porn producer, and speaking of meta gags, yep, that's Warwick Quarry from Dr. Phibes Rises Again.
Well, that's Hollywood for you, sweetheart. He's on the make, she's on the take.
Introduces himself and pretty much just to be a dick about it, reveals that said fiancé is, unbeknownst to Toombs, a former adult film star from his company and his former girlfriend. Toombs doesn't exactly react great to either piece of news and she leaves the party, leading to them being separated exactly long enough for him to apparently pass out and her to be attacked in her room by someone wearing a Dr. Death costume. So when Toombs wakes up and goes to apologize,
I shouldn't have said what I did.
Fast forward many years to then present day 1974 and the world has moved on, but the Dr. Death murder remains unsolved. Most people believe Toombs was the killer. He claims to have no memory one way or the other. There's no actual evidence showing he did it, but even he isn't really confident that it wasn't him, or rather that it wasn't Dr. Death.
Did you do it?
I don't know.
The only way to conquer your fear of the past is to face it. I made you come here to bring you back to life.
But you're not bringing me back to life. You're bringing Dr. Death back to life. And he terrifies me. I'm terrified of what he's done. And I'm terrified of what he still may do.
But because it's still an infamous character, both Paul and his creative partner Peter Cushing, yep, him too, as actor-turned-screenwriter Herbert Flay, jointly own the rights to the Dr. Death IP, a TV studio that wants to reboot their franchise as a series has convinced Toombs to come to England to reprise the role.
How did this happen?
That's a very good question.
The only way they can secure the funding. Oh, and the executive at the network making the show is the producer who caused the scene at the New Year's Eve party.
That just raises further questions.
And if you're thinking, okay, on the one hand, all of that sounds depressingly like a series of very poor decisions that still actually would 100% happen in the entertainment business in reality, but don't generally happen in movies about the entertainment business because reality often sounds more convoluted than fiction, hang on, it keeps going. Toombs keeps being accosted on his boat trip to England and then again after his arrival by a scheming starlet who steals his watch and tries to blackmail him into getting a role on the new Dr. Death show.
All I need is a break. Then I wouldn't tell the newspapers a thing.
Miss Peters, as they say in horror movies, you will come to a bad end. Out. Gentlemen, promise no reporters, please.
Hey, Dr. Death, who's this?
Miss Kiss of Death.
Come on, love.
Come on, out you go now.
Okay, want to
I know it.
He's also staying in Herbert Flay's creepy mansion in the middle of nowhere while they make the show, and it turns out Flay has actually been married for several years to one of the former leading ladies from one of the Dr. Death movies who was disfigured in a car fire, went insane, and now lives in the basement talking to spiders.
How are my babies? How are my pretty, furry little babies? I used to laugh at stories of Girls being beaten up by guys just for the hell of it. These guys got scared. They set the car on fire and pushed it down the hill. When I came out of it, I wasn't pretty anymore.
All of which is information he, for some reason, has not informed Toombs about before this.
Why didn't you tell me about Faye?
Investigations began into the cause of
I thought it might upset you.
You're right. It did.
Once again, things that could have been brought to my attention yesterday!
Apparently because they called the movie Madhouse and there needed to be a madhouse in it.
Logical.
Also, the actress stalker followed Toombs there and gets killed by, yes, someone dressed like Dr. Death in a manner that mimics one of the Dr. Death movies.
The Peters murder was done with a pitchfork. Exactly like the one in this film.
If Paul Toombs copied it, then he's a fool.
Oh, I don't think he copied it deliberately, sir. I believe he's psychologically disturbed.
The movie actually runs for a while before that plot point comes up, even though it was kind of marketed as that being the whole premise. This makes the police suspicious and also brings out her parents, who immediately try to blackmail Toombs with the watch.
Our little girl had it.
The girl on the ship.
The girl you seduced.
The girl you done in.
Give me that watch! Give me that watch! Give it to me!
You'll have to pay.
£10,000.
And then they get killed by whoever it is wearing this costume.
Sacre bleu! The deadly poke of Zorro!
Is it Toombs? Is it not Toombs? We're meant to wonder, but on the set of the reboot it becomes readily apparent that the sleazy producer's actual plan is to only keep Toombs around as Dr. Death for a short amount of time and then pass the role off to a new assistant character he's already cast with his girlfriend, which Toombs is not a fan of.
My assistant? Dr. Death never had an assistant.
Well, I figured we needed a little sex appeal in this series.
I said we must work fast before rigor mortis sets in. I didn't say in who.
We're recording, Paul.
And then someone kills her off using another Dr. Death movie reference. And even though we get another death scene involving a tampered trap rig that was apparently meant to kill Toombs and what appears to be a fight and chase scene where it appears that Toombs and an imposter Dr. Death are fighting each other, it looks pretty clear that even though there are too many other random suspects, it could as easily be Toombs having a split personality and some of the movie just might be happening in his head at this point.
Why did he take you again, Ellen? Was it because you were young? Because your eyes shone? And your lips smiled? Because you were life?
Heck, once the film's most sympathetic supporting character is killed off, Toombs is so convinced that he must be the one that did it, he delivers an all-timer hero-villain combo monologue and decides the only way he's going to be rid of Dr. Death is to take himself out himself.
Herbert and I created him between us. No, we didn't create him. He was there. We found him in ourselves, already there. And he will always be there. Man is born to live. He creates life. He welcomes life. He cherishes life. He creates new life. But deep in our souls there lurks an instinct which welcomes death. It makes it easier when it comes. That's what we saw in the darkness. That is the sleeping phantom that we roused and formed and clothed in black. A phantom feeding on death, creating death, exulting in death. Oh, why didn't he take me? Now he must die. Lights! Camera! The death of Dr. Death.
Wow. You know, yeah, this is a really uneven, random, completely nonsensical movie overall, but yeah, wow, that is a hell of a way to end this. That's, wow, bravo. That is dark and very I guess it's still going.
And here's to the new Dr. Death, the film of his final performance.
Death of Dr. Death.
Another shocking twist!
You're dead! Why did you do it, my friend? You killed Ellen. And all of the others, too. You wanted everybody to think that it was me. Why, Herbert, why did you want to destroy me? You loved Dr. Death.
Yes! And I should have played him! Dr. Death is mine! I created the part for myself, but the studio gave it to you! You weren't a better actor. You were nothing until you played Dr. Death. He made you into a star. I killed Ellen, hoping to get rid of you. But the studio still wouldn't listen.
Of course. It's so simple. Wait, no it's not. It's needlessly complicated.
I am Dr. Death!
They like him now.
Perhaps there is no moral to this story.
Exactly. It's just a bunch of stuff that happened.
But it certainly was a memorable few days.
It's your favorite, Paul. Sour cream and red herrings.
Yeah, so Madhouse does not really make a single bit of sense in its logic, series of events, or the actions of anyone involved, and out of left field tone shifts between is this a realistic murder mystery versus the Spider Lady stuff, and Toombs suddenly doing a maybe not resurrection gag at the end are just bizarre.
And I'm his friend Jesus.
But there is a genuinely haunted quality to seeing Cushing and Price just unload what feels like a ton of very real meta on meta, looking back on the business of being an undervalued horror star baggage in the midst of this weird, disposable feeling body count movie.
His surgery walls decorated with gallbladders, livers, and kidneys, and...
Just like the great days, eh?
In our day in Hollywood, the monsters didn't need makeup. They just came as themselves.
It really only plays well paired with one of the other better films in this pseudo-cycle, like the 2 Fives movies or Theater of Blood, but if you get a shot, it's pretty compelling in that regard, and there are some great moments. It's definitely not short on atmosphere, and Price is very good in it, even if it is sometimes hard to tell if he would genuinely rather be anywhere else, or if he's just very good at playing a guy who would rather be anywhere else. This one tends to be forgotten, but there's an argument that it shouldn't.
Why do you think that your films have been so very successful?
Well, I think it's because they're not about the ordinary, everyday world around us. They're about a world that's deep inside of us, a world of impulses and instincts that we have been taught to suppress.
That sounds a bit spooky, impulses. I mean, what sort of impulses?
Well, they're impulses that we don't dare admit. Impulses that sometimes we don't even know we have. Animal cruelty, brutal violence, and bloodlust. They're tamed and caged. Sometimes they prowl around inside of the cages that we've built for them. And then there comes a time in between our sleeping and our waking when they whisper to us that they want to be set free, but, well, we don't set them free. I think maybe that's why the pictures are successful.